You ever find yourself in a moment where doing the right thing makes you look like the bad guy? That's what happened to me last weekend, and honestly, I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. All I did was try to take care of my wife. But one push, one drunken night, and suddenly I'm controlling? Let me explain. My wife, Emily, is the kind of person who lights up a room. Loud laugh, easy smile, a little too generous with her tequila pours. I've always loved that about her. But there's a line between being the life of the party and losing yourself in it, and lately I've been worried she doesn't see it anymore. Emily's been close with this one friend, Jessica, for about 2 years now. I tried to give her the benefit of the doubt at first, but Jessica rubs me the wrong way. She's got that too cool for consequences attitude, always trying to outdrink everyone and dragging Emily along with her. I'm not the only one who finds her hard to deal with. A lot of our mutual friends quietly agree she's the kind of person who stirs drama for sport. Still, I've kept my distance for Emily's sake. This past weekend, Emily told me she was going over to Jessica's place to hang out with her and a couple of their other girlfriends. A girls' night, no big deal on the surface. She mentioned there would be drinking, but promised she wouldn't overdo it. Just a few glasses of wine, she said, like she always does. I asked her to be home by 10 and not to drive. She agreed, said she'd book a cab. But something in her voice set off alarm bells. Maybe it was the way she laughed when she promised not to drink too much. Maybe it was just that gut feeling I've come to trust after years of knowing her patterns. So I told her she didn't need to get a cab. I'd pick her up. She rolled her eyes, but agreed. Do you ever get that tight feeling in your chest before something bad happens? Like your body knows before your mind does? I felt that all night. I waited as long as I could, then left the house around 9, telling myself I was just being overly cautious. But when I pulled up outside Jessica's place, that feeling twisted into something worse. The music was blasting from inside, some club track thumping loud enough to rattle my windshield. I walked up to the front door and didn't even have to knock. Someone flung it open, laughing, holding a red Solo cup. I stepped in and felt like I had walked into a frat party. Emily was on the couch, barely upright, her eyes glossy and unfocused. Jessica and the other women were dancing, spilling drinks, shouting over each other. The place reeked of booze, perfume, and poor judgment. What would you have done if you walked into that scene? Would you have stayed calm? I walked over to Emily and crouched down. Hey, babe, it's time to go. She blinked up at me and tried to smile. Already? Yeah, let's get you home. That's when Jessica stepped in, slurring something about letting Emily stay longer. The others chimed in, giggling, one of them waving a bottle in the air. Emily in her drunken haze mumbled something about 5 more minutes. Ooh, I looked at Jessica and said firmly, she's had enough. I'm taking her home. But Jessica didn't take it well. Not at all. Jessica's eyes narrowed like I'd just insulted her personally. You don't get to just barge in here and decide when your wife leaves, she snapped, stepping between me and Emily. I stayed calm, even though every muscle in my body was tense. She's clearly not okay. This isn't about control. This is about getting her home safely. Jessica scoffed. She's an adult, not a child. She can decide for herself. That would have sounded reasonable if Emily wasn't nearly slipping off the couch, mumbling incoherently. But reason was clearly not the flavor of the night. Seriously, man, one of the other girls chimed in. Just chill. We're all just having fun. Is it really fun when someone's too drunk to keep their head up? I get it. People party, they drink, they let loose. But there's a point where it stops being harmless and starts looking like neglect. I wasn't trying to ruin their night. I just wanted my wife out of there before things got worse. Jessica put a hand on my chest, stopping me as I tried to help Emily stand up. It wasn't a gentle nudge. It was a shove. That was the moment the line got crossed. Back off, she shouted. You don't own her. That's when I snapped, quietly, but with all the clarity of a man who's had enough. Touch me again, I said, and I will make sure you never step foot in my house again. You just laid hands on me in your drunken mess, and I'm walking away only because you're a woman and I'm trying to be respectful. She cursed at me under her breath. The other women stood awkwardly around, silent now, unsure whether to support their ringleader or just pretend none of it was happening. Emily, bless her heart, looked up at me with tears brimming in her eyes. Let's go, she whispered. So I carried her out, literally. Her legs wouldn't hold steady, and I wasn't about to let her stumble around the street like that. The ride home was quiet. She leaned against me in the passenger seat, half asleep, murmuring now and then. I couldn't stop thinking, why did it have to get to this point? Why did I have to be the villain just for trying to protect her? When we got home, I helped her to the bathroom, changed her into pajamas, and sat beside her while she dry heaved and cried. She kept saying, "I'm sorry," over and over again. Then as the night dragged on and the alcohol began wearing off, she curled up next to me in bed and clung to my chest like a lost child. "My husband," she whispered, "you're such a good man. I love you." It broke me a little, because I love her more than anything, and I'm not trying to control her. I just don't want to see her hurt. But instead of understanding, her friends call me a tyrant. Instead of appreciation, I get branded as the overbearing husband. Is protecting someone you love supposed to feel like walking on a tightrope? Because that's what it felt like. One wrong move, one stronger word, and suddenly I'm the enemy. But tell me this, what would you have done if you were in my shoes? If the person you love most is too drunk to stand, and her so-called friends are more concerned with another round than her safety, would you have walked away? I couldn't. And maybe that's why I still don't regret what I did, even if the fallout was just beginning. The next morning, the quiet in the house felt heavier than usual. Emily was still asleep, her head buried in the crook of her arm, soft snores muffled against the pillow. I stood in the kitchen, nursing a cup of black coffee, watching the sun creep through the blinds like it was trying not to wake the day too quickly. I kept playing the night before over and over in my head. The push, the insults, the look on Emily's face when she saw me standing there, determined to take her home. I wasn't angry anymore, not in that raging way, but I felt this slow-burning sense of betrayal. Not from her, from everything around her. Around 11, Emily stumbled into the kitchen, her hair a mess, eyes puffy, wrapped in the oversized hoodie I'd laid out for her the night before. She sat at the table and rubbed her temples. "I don't remember much," she mumbled. "That's probably a good thing," I said, trying to keep the edge out of my voice. There was a long pause. Then she looked up at me, her voice barely above a whisper. "Did Jessica really push you?" I nodded. She flinched, closing her eyes for a second. "She didn't mean it. She was drunk. She gets defensive." She put her hands on me, "Emily. That's not okay. Drunk or not." I said it calmly but firmly. "And she did it while trying to keep you in a place where you couldn't even walk. That's not defending you. That's endangering you." She didn't argue, just nodded slowly like she was really letting it sink in. Then came the messages. First, a group text from one of the girls at the party. "Hey, not cool how you stormed in last night. Kinda controlling TBH. Then another. "You embarrassed Emily and made it all about you." And finally, from Jessica herself. "You don't get to decide who Emily's friends are. Stay in your lane." "In what lane? The one where I let my wife get blackout drunk on a couch and wait until someone else decides she's had enough?" I showed Emily the text, not to start a fight, but to be transparent. Her hands trembled a little as she read them. "They don't get it," she said softly. "They think they're protecting me." "From what? From someone who made sure you got home safe, fed, and in bed?" I asked. "They saw me as the bad guy because I interrupted their fun. But I'm your husband. I'm not going to sit back and watch you fall apart just to keep the peace with people who clearly don't have your best interests at heart." It was quiet again for a moment. Then she asked, "Are you really banning Jessica from our house?" I nodded. "Yeah, I meant it. She crossed a line. She's not welcome here." Her expression was hard to read, part guilt, part relief, maybe even a bit of sadness. "I know you're not trying to control me," she said finally. "I felt safe the moment I saw you at the door. I just didn't want to admit I needed to be rescued." And that hit me hard, because we always talk about wanting to be strong, independent, in control. But sometimes being cared for isn't weakness. It's love. It's trust. It's choosing the person who shows up when you're at your lowest, not the ones who hand you another drink. When did we start confusing protection with possession? And why is it so easy for others to twist love into control when they don't understand the full story? All I knew was something had shifted between us, and it was only the beginning. The days that followed were quieter than usual, tense but not hostile. Emily and I weren't fighting, but there was this unspoken weight between us. We were both navigating the aftershock of that night in different ways. She spent a lot of time on the couch with her thoughts, barely touching her phone. I gave her space, even though part of me wanted to ask a million questions. By midweek, the silence broke, not from us, but from the outside world. Jessica's drama machine kicked into full gear. She started posting vague, passive-aggressive stories on social media. Some men can't handle strong women. Controlling isn't caring. And my personal favorite, friends who let their partners isolate them are already lost. The captions didn't mention names, but the timing wasn't subtle. I wasn't the only one who noticed. A couple of Emily's coworkers even asked her if everything was okay at home. Isn't that wild? One moment you're doing everything you can to protect the person you love, and the next people are whispering that you might be the danger. That's when Emily decided to respond, just not online. She asked me if we could talk, like really talk. We sat at the dining table, just the two of us, no distractions. She looked tired, not just physically, but emotionally drained, like something inside her was unraveling. I didn't realize how much I've been letting Jessica influence me, she began, voice low. She's been there through a lot. She helped me when I was lonely, when I didn't know who I was after my mom passed. But somewhere along the way, I think she started speaking for me instead of with me. I didn't say anything right away, I just listened. She's been calling nonstop since that night, Emily continued, telling me I'm losing myself, that I'm letting a man control my choices. But that's not what this is. You didn't yell. You didn't drag me out. You didn't shame me. You showed up and took care of me when I couldn't do it for myself. That meant everything to hear. I could feel my shoulders drop, like I'd been holding my breath for days. Then she asked, "Do you think I've been ignoring your concerns about drinking?" I hesitated, then nodded. Yeah, a little. It's not just about the alcohol. It's what happens when you're around people who encourage you to lose control and call it freedom. That doesn't feel safe for either of us. Her eyes filled with tears. I think I wanted to believe I could balance both worlds. Still be fun and spontaneous with my friends, and still be grounded and present with you. But maybe those two sides were never meant to coexist. That was the moment and I realized she wasn't just reflecting on one night. She was reflecting on a lifestyle, a version of herself that didn't quite fit anymore. And it wasn't about giving up fun or friendships. It was about redefining what those things look like in this chapter of our life. How do you tell the difference between growing and changing? When do you know it's time to let go of people who once mattered, even if they helped shape you? Emily didn't make any grand declarations that night. She didn't block Jessica or delete anyone. But she did say, I think I need to step back and think about who's actually rooting for me and who just wants a drinking buddy. It wasn't a perfect resolution, but it was honest, and it was ours. And sometimes that's enough to start healing. A few weeks passed, and things slowly began to shift. Between Emily and me, and between her and the people she once considered part of her inner circle. Jessica stopped calling eventually. I'm not sure if she got tired of being ignored or finally realized the wedge she'd tried to drive between us wasn't going to hold. Either way, her absence felt like a heavy curtain being pulled back, letting light back into the room. Emily didn't seem to miss her, not in the way I think she expected to. I could tell there were moments she felt conflicted, but overall she seemed lighter, more present, like she was rediscovering the parts of herself she'd left behind to belong somewhere that no longer served her. One Saturday morning, we were sitting on the porch, sipping coffee, the world still quiet except for the birds and the occasional passing car. Emily turned to me out of the blue and asked, "Do you think I've changed?" It caught me off guard. I looked at her, sunlight catching the edges of her hair, eyes searching mine not for validation, but for truth. "I think you've grown," I said. "There's a difference. Change can be surface level. Growth comes with pain and choice." She nodded, quietly taking that in. "I used to think choosing someone meant losing part of yourself, that being married meant sacrificing freedom. But you didn't take anything from me. You just stood by while I figured out what I actually wanted to keep." That moment will stay with me for a long time. It reminded me that love isn't loud. It's not always grand gestures or fireworks. Sometimes it's showing up at the door of a house full of case and walking out with the one person who matters. It's feeding them when they're sick. It's staying up all night because they need someone next to them. It's being called controlling by people who don't see the whole picture and staying grounded in your truth anyway. And yeah, some people still think I overstepped that night. Some believe I had no right to ban Jessica from our home, that I made Emily's choices for her. But here's the thing, a marriage isn't about making choices for each other. It's about making choices with each other and protecting the space where those choices happen safely. If you had asked me a year ago whether I'd ever be in a position like this, I probably would have laughed it off. Emily and I were solid, fun, and full of that easy kind of love. But real relationships get tested, not always by betrayal or lies, sometimes just by people who don't know when to stop interfering. So where do you draw the line between concern and control? And who gets to decide what's best for your relationship? Outsiders or the people actually in it? I can't pretend we have all the answers now. There's still work to be done, boundaries to protect, trust to maintain. But one thing is certain, we're on the same side again, and that counts for everything. Emily still sees some of her friends, but now with clearer eyes and stronger limits. She drinks in moderation, not because I asked her to, but because she wants to be in control of her choices, for herself, for us. And as for Jessica, I haven't seen her since that night. And honestly, I'm okay if I never do, because at the end of the day, I didn't lose a friend. I watched my wife reclaim her voice. And I'll always be the one to stand beside her when she does. What would you have done in my shoes? Would you have walked away and hoped for the best or stepped in, even if it meant being seen as the villain? I know I made tough choices, but I made them out of love. I want to hear from you. Share your thoughts in the comments. Was I right or did I go too far? If you felt even a little of what I felt, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. It lets me know I'm not alone, that someone out there gets it. Your support truly means everything.